And this is a bit of a somber, just to talk about everything, that happened with Helene and Milton. Obviously, a lot of damage to our area. And I want to give you guys some advice on how to handle claims, how to evaluate what's going to happen in the real estate market over the next several months from impacts of the storm. Just kind of keep you guys up to date on what's going on. I think people are kind of back, getting power back, getting back in kind of the swing of life and things back to normal. But this was obviously a catastrophic storm, 100-year storm for our area. So if you have impact, I'm sorry. So glad that our area has come together. So many neighbors helping neighbors, and it could have been worse, truthfully. It hit further south. If it would have hit a little further north of here, we'd have had an epic storm surge event, especially with 2 feet of rain that we didn't end up having. So consider our area fortunate and blessed that it wasn't worse, but I know that there are a lot of people out there rebuilding that lost everything, that lost their homes, that are going to be fighting with insurance for months and months and months. So I want to give you an opportunity today to learn, what I think is going to happen to the real estate market, but also to give you some tips on things that I think you need to do as you go down this path. So if you are someone that was impacted and you're dealing with your insurance company and you plan to sell your home, I want to make sure that you get everything in writing from your carrier about your settlement and payment. I've had clients reach out and say, hey, I want to sell my house and then wait on the insurance money. That isn't possible with some carriers. You want to make sure to get everything in writing so you know what you can and can't do. I'd hate for you to go and sell your property and then your insurance claim gets denied because you're no longer the owner of the property before the claim pays out. So that's one thing I want to make sure and advise people of. Secondly, if you had damage, document everything. If you plan to sell your property, have it documented so that you can explain and show that to people in the future. You also, if you plan to sell, you want the buyers to know what happened to your house during the storm. Every buyer is going to be scared and want to know what's going on or what happened in that neighborhood. And the more information, videos, photos that you have to be able to provide to them to show them what did or did not happen in your neighborhood, the better off you're going to be. So sellers, get all that information, compile it from neighbors, take your pictures, be prepared to answer those questions. Buyers, do your due diligence. There are going to be people that are going to slop houses back together. They're going to do it on the cheap. They're going to not disclose certain things. They're going to hide certain things. And you need to make sure you're working with a great agent as well as a great home inspector to try and vet that out so that you don't buy a house that was slopped back together and ends up being a problem for you because someone wants to pawn off their problem on you. There are going to be a lot of those things going on right now. Secondly, if you don't have flood insurance, you're someone out there that it's not required. When I say it's not required, I want you to understand who is telling you it's not required. Your lender and basically the government with FEMA. And if you're listening to this show, you're probably a lot like me, and maybe you don't trust the government. Maybe you don't believe that they have your best interest in mind. Or maybe you don't think that they make the right choices about how to navigate through your personal life. They set flood insurance costs based on the elevation of the home. Very little else is factored in. Not necessarily how well your area drains, how much rain you might get, how close you are to the water, or even in some instances, how likely your area is to flood. It's amazing. It would be like insurance carriers in the automotive world insuring cars and not even factoring in cities or towns where it's more dangerous or more cars get broken into, not having insurance more expensive there. So flood insurance is so backward. I wish it could get blown up and changed. So when you hear that you're not required to have flood insurance, you should not trust that you're safe. Okay? You should not trust that your property is safe from flooding. There are so many people in Tampa Bay right now that are in flood zone X that lost everything because they did not have flood insurance. Their homeowner's coverage isn't going to carry or kick in because they don't have flood coverage because they weren't quote unquote required to have it. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We live on a peninsula. Okay, our whole state is a peninsula, and then Tampa in general is a peninsula if you're in the city or downtown or South Tampa. So if you live on a peninsula, get flood insurance. It's cheap if your lender doesn't require it. Okay. If you're not required to have it, it won't be that expensive. And it's further protecting you in a case of having catastrophic storm damage like we had with both Helene and Milton. So get flood insurance if you don't have it and you're not required to. Look into it, protect yourself, protect your property, protect your family. There's too many people that are going to lose hundreds of thousands, in some instances millions of dollars, because they don't have the proper coverage on properties that they own. So get your coverage. It's not expensive if you're not required to have it by your lender. If you don't owe anything on your home and you don't have a lender, you should still have it. You should get flood insurance. Everybody should have flood insurance. The reality is way too many people right now are, displaced by this storm, hurt and navigating through life now because they didn't get good advice. They didn't get the right insurance. So I'm hopeful that many of you people right now are listening and you take this advice seriously and you go out and get flood insurance if you're not in a flood zone or not required to have it.